Hi, I'm Chairman Don Palmer with the United States Election Assistance Commission. May is Military Appreciation Month, and as a part of the EAC's recognition of this month, we'll be interviewing election officials from areas with military voters to learn about military voting and how election officials assist service members. Today, I'm pleased to speak with Cynthia Paes, who is the Interim Registrar of Voters in San Diego County, California. Ms. Paes, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here with us on Military Appreciation Month.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So obviously, when you think about the military and for myself, the United States Navy, you think about San Diego, California as a huge Navy base. And as an administrator in San Diego County, what are the biggest challenges that you have in administering elections with a high number of military voters, and what are the ways that you overcome those challenges?
So we notice problems with just UOCAVA qualifications. So we have folks that may fill out the federal application, but then list a mailing address that is in the county, which then doesn't qualify them to receive their ballot 45 days in advance. So it's mostly just reaching out to them and making sure that they filled out their information correctly with their in-county residence address, but an out-of-county mailing address. That and also keeping emails up to date seems to be some of the biggest things that we work through.
So just speaking about the emails, we've talked to some military members in past years, and in fact, we were out in San Diego, and many of them talked about some of the cyber challenges on getting ballots by email. How have you worked around that problem? Is that something that you've had to overcome? And just talk to us about that problem that we've heard it from some military.
Yes. So in the past, our emails would be blocked by the military installations. So now with remote accessible vote by mail, this is a new system we implemented. We've overcome those challenges with their ability to access their ballot, mark it on screen, print it, and then mail it back to us.
Okay. So that's one of the ways you've overcome that challenge.
Yes.
Could you speak to any of your special programs that you may have or initiatives that you've developed as a result of having such a high concentration of military voters?
Our main focus is maintaining good relationships with each of the military bases, good relationships with their voting officers, and trying to coordinate any trainings. For example, we go to Camp Pendleton once every 2 years and provide training on UOCAVA and filling out the application and all the important steps they should be taking to make sure they receive their ballots timely. So that's something I would reinforce, is just maintaining those relationships with the voting officers, because they're the ones that are really getting the job done on the bases.
So with that program, that's an outstanding program working with the voting assistance officers. Are there any lessons learned from the implementation of that you might share with other election officials, or other recommendations you might have?
I think it's important to reach out regularly, because those voting assistance officers, they change quite a bit. So we don't have consistently the same person year after year. So again, it's really maintaining those good relationships, communication, being available for any trainings or any assistance they might need, directing them to the resources, like the Federal Voting Assistance Program website has great resources, which we consistently refer folks to that website. So it's mainly things like that, getting them the resources they need and just being available.
Well, that's great. you know, it's a little bit, you talked a little bit about the federal resources that are available. Are there any other state resources? And from a local perspective, you know, from your office perspective, how many individuals would you say that you have that are dedicated to sort of working with this community to make sure that they have what they need to participate in the process?
Well, we're small but mighty over here. So our vote by mail staff is about 7 people. So we probably have 1 to 2 people that are dedicated to responding to questions. We do beef that up in the election cycle. So that's when we bring on across our department of 69 permanent staff, we hire an additional 1,000 employees to work typically 30 days to 90 days during any election cycle. So at that time is where ramping up to election day that previous month, we'll have many more staff focused on responding to emails, phone calls, trying to work out all of any problems ahead of time so these folks can get their ballot.
So, you know, I'm going to switch gears a bit from sort of the administration of this. Do you have any recommendations for service members who have recently relocated to San Diego or left San Diego to ensure that they're election ready, you know, for the next coming federal election or the next presidential election?
Be aware of our deadlines. So here in California, we have a close of registration, even though you could register up until election day. The close is 15 days prior to election day. This is critical so we can get you your ballot timely. With RAVBM, remote accessible vote by mail, it streamlines that process, but you still need time to mark that ballot, print it, and then mail it back to us. So just to be aware of your state's deadlines, here it's 15 days in advance of the election. Be registered. You can go online to sdvote.com and check your registration. Make sure your residence address and mailing address are up to date. Registration is the biggest thing. It's just making sure your address is up to date. Whenever you move, get deployed elsewhere, change your name, you need to fill out a new registration form or a new federal application. And just to keep that up to date, that's probably the most critical thing. Make sure your email is up to date that we have on file. Those are probably the most important things.
And these voters could go online to the online voter registration portal and change their address. Can they do it that way?
They can. They can. My staff would probably then reach out to them just to fill out the federal form is probably the better way to go. Just to keep that up to date. But to check your registration, yes, please come to sdvote.com. You could look up your registration. You could check your mailing address, your residence address, and just make sure that's correct prior to election day.
So you've provided some great advice for the military voter. Before one last question, and if there's anything else that you want to talk about your program, I wanted to ask you: do you know how many countries that you serve for your UACAVA or overseas voter? I know sometimes counties track that. Sometimes it can be dozens. It's amazing how many countries you know that our citizens and our voters deployed to. But is there anything else that you would share with a military voter or the election officials about serving this community?
I would just repeat, you know, the key things is maintaining a good relationship with those voting assistance officers. Keep in touch with them frequently to know who is filling that role at the time an election's coming up, and make sure your address is up to date. Those are the key things. We want to get you your sample ballot information and your ballot on time.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, Cynthia Paes, who is the interim registrar of voters in San Diego County. I want to thank you for joining us on Military Appreciation Month and in the lead up to Memorial Day. Thank you for your service, and we all thank the military for their service to the country. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.